Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back here with Amy Stolberg. Excited to have her here as a private psychotherapist and life coach. She's helping people all over. She's from Rochester, New York, which is upstate, and it's on Lake Ontario, correct? And we're going to talk today more about her company. AmyStolbergTherapy.com is her website, AmyStolberg therapy.com. How are you?
Good morning, Jill. I'm great. Thank you.
Great to have you here again. And we're going to talk today about your work in doing private psychotherapy and life coaching as well. So if you don't mind just introducing yourself to our listeners to start.
Oh, good morning. I'm Amy Stolberg. I live in upstate New York. I am a divorced mother of two. I've been in private practice close to 30 years. I've worked with everybody from age 5 up to 85. Settling in with the adults and young adults, and have learned a lot of things over the 30 years, and just thought I would, present it to the rest of the world and hopefully, give a few pearls of wisdom.
All right. So you say you're the fourth of 5 children, you say. My goodness. Could you tell me a little bit about what happened in your childhood and what brought you here to this career path?
4 or 5 children of the same parents. I think just the dynamics of two immature adults having lots of kids, moving around a lot, not well prepared for parenting, didn't teach us all the things that we should have known about mental health, physical health, financial health. People learn poor coping skills. You see mental health things come out of that. And being, one of 5, I guess I learned from both what I saw my parents go through, my siblings go through. I met a lot of people while we moved around a lot. I always was the new kid and had to fit in. So I was kind of like the chameleon and had to learn my own coping skills. Not all of them were good, but over time they got better. And I found myself in the human service field, and I knew that from an early age that I wanted to help other people. And I've been fortunate enough all these years to be privy to my life and the stories of many other people's lives, that I bring these little pearls of wisdom to the rest of the world.
Wonderful. And thank you for sharing that, because I know we've all been through our own personal experiences, but it really does make us who we are. Some have worse situations than others, but here you are wanting to help others. So then you just decide to, weren't you in school? Were you a guidance counselor or
I was a social worker.
social worker?
My background training is social work. I have a bachelor's in social work, a master's in social work. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I worked for a nonprofit for community mental health services, preventive programs. I've worked in day treatments with children, with families, with adults, individuals, post-incarceration, you name it. I've done it. I've, participated in it. And here I am to share all the things that I've learned over the years.
Right. Well, I know you're here to help open people's minds to the fact that we're all human. We all share that, well, commonality in a sense with life experience. But some people, we tend to need help with certain emotional, mental issues. So, what did you want to share for us today as a psychotherapist? The types of people that may be listening today. What are some of the things you can help people work through?
Well, I guess the first message I want to reiterate is just that, we are all human, and that is the universal life experience. It doesn't matter where you're born, what color of your skin, what language you speak. That's all just a random act of the universe. Love is love, pain is pain, and how we deal with it is what affects us mentally, emotionally, physically. Interactions that we have within ourselves, with the people around us, the universe, really dictates how we manifest those experiences, whether it manifests into significant mental health issues or physical issues. We bring all of it as a universal experience into who we are, so that it brings both positive and negative. It's your weaknesses, the things you've gone through, the pain you've gone through, that creates the strength that you become. And I think overall, that's important for people to understand. and really to kind of take a look at where does all that come from. And it starts in your family of origin. It's, the nature nurture kind of stuff. There are things that you are hardwired for just genetically, and then there's things that you learn along the way. I think people forget that we are animal, we have instincts, and over time you either learn to listen to your instincts or ignore your instincts. A lot of what affects our mental health is how we handle those things that happen to us and how we instinctually respond to them.
And your work now, I don't know if you want to dive into more with psychotherapy work or life coaching. What did you want to share with us today, Amy? There's a lot to the work you're doing and how you can help people.
Well, I think, maybe starting at some of the psychotherapy stuff, because that's really where it starts for people to understand where their coping skills come from, where their mental health issues come from. And, it is part of the genetics. It's your life experiences, whether that's trauma, whether it's people you come in contact with, understanding that those instinctual responses that are the fight, flight, and freeze response that affects us so frequently, and people don't realize that how we respond to other people has to do with that instinctual response of fight, flight, or freeze. And that happens as a coping skill. If somebody's coming at you emotionally, physically, verbally, if you feel threatened, you're going to react from the oldest part of your brain, which is the instinctual part. And you're either going to fight that person, whether that be verbally, physically, you're going to run away from them. And that's either going to be emotionally, you're shutting down, or physically leaving the environment, or you're going to freeze. There are people out there who, when confronted, absolutely freeze, and they can't verbalize, they can't articulate, and that's a coping skill, and it's a dysfunctional coping skill. So, understanding that stuff is the basic, and realizing that there are things that affect how we develop, whether it be in the nutrition, trauma, medication, your family of origin stuff, the stuff you saw in your parents, things you observed are overt. Things that you didn't observe are covert, both of which teach you things in your family of origin. You also pick up things along the way in school, social media, and the rest of the world. And we continue on an ongoing basis, learn things overtly and covertly, and we internalize them in ourselves, and how we rationalize them is how we then react to them. So, understanding that our background, where this stuff comes from, and that we can make change. The whole study of neuroplasticity is about making brain changes. And instead of going down our path of least resistance, which may be something you've been doing since you were a child, is catching yourself when you're going down that path of least resistance and realizing maybe this is not the best way to do it. Maybe something brought that to your attention and realize I got to do something different. And so the first thing is becoming aware that what you're doing isn't working well for you. And there's, a theory called the steps of change. And if you can imagine steps, and the bottom step is called unconscious incompetence, meaning you have no clue that what you're doing is really not the best thing for you. Something brings that to your attention, and you realize, oh, wow, maybe I need to, maybe that's a problem. So then you become consciously aware of your incompetence. And you can use this as an example, whether it be your drinking or certain behaviors. And now you're aware that what you're doing is not working for you or have the best output. Usually a person doesn't make those changes until there's a crisis situation. So let's say the crux of the steps is a crisis situation. And something says you got to make a change, or else, whether that you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your spouse, you're going to lose your health or something of the sort. And then you have to learn the skills to do differently. And that's where some of the psychotherapy and education stuff comes in. And at that point, you choose to not go down the path of least resistance, but to go down a different path. And that may be difficult. It takes a long time to make those changes. At that point, you're on the step of conscious competence. You are consciously, slowly making the choice to do something different. And you do that step over and over and over again until it becomes habit. And at that point, you just have on its own raised yourself to the top step, which is unconscious competence. You're not even aware that, what you're doing is the better option. It just is. And you would never think to go back to, consciously incompetent. And you can never go back to unconscious incompetence, because once the light's on, the light's on. You can't turn it off again. You know that what you were doing wasn't working for you. So, understanding some of the history of where we come from, where our current coping skills come from, understanding that and making the decision to make change. Psychotherapy is about understanding and injections of education, and making decisions to make change. And change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, practice, a lot of patience.
My goodness. And by the way, let's remind everyone how we could reach you, please.
It's amystolbergtherapy.com.
Perfect. And speaking of, if you go to the website, you can contact her there, guiding on your path of self-healing, health and wellness. You can book telehealth appointments right there from the website. And you also do accept some insurance as well, right? That may be a question some people have. Yeah.
I do accept some insurance. I also accept private pay. Some people don't want to deal with their insurance companies and don't want that disclosure of what they believe will be disclosed with insurance, using insurance. But it's all there. I don't have a whole lot of slots. I want to use the time to share with the larger world some of the things that I have learned over my years of practice. And hopefully that way I can help more people all at once.
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you want to share some of the stories of some of the people you're helping without using names, of course, but
Of course.
Thank you.
Let's see. For some of my clients, most clients come to me when they're in crisis. And whether that be a crisis because of a job or a relationship or trauma that they have had in the past that is, resurfacing. And we dig into that stuff. It affects, your daily functioning. So the relationship that I build with my clients, starts with understanding where they are now, who they are now, what's in their life now. And that may be just their daily, what their life exists of from day to day, who the people are in their life, and where whatever the issue is affecting them, whether it's affecting them at home, with their family, with the relationships with coworkers. And, taking it from there. And as the rapport is built between myself and my client, I get to know them more. I get to know their functioning. A level of trust is built. And we start digging into some of the past stuff. Why is there a crisis now? Is it just circumstantial? Is it just, what's happening at the moment? Or is there something deeper? Is it something that is from a past trauma? Is it from your family of origin? And figuring that stuff out. And oftentimes it's just really not clear to the person. They know that they're in crisis and something's not working. And whether that be they're doing something that's hurtful and harmful to themselves or others, or their partner or the work situation they're in is being hurtful and harmful to them, and helping them see that and make movement towards either correcting something within themselves or correcting the situation that they're in. And once we've dealt with the crisis at hand and we've injected some better coping skills and an idea of where they want the future to go, And once that is in place, then those clients oftentimes either stick with me long term or go out, do their thing, do their life, and then loop back around. I have so many clients that loop back around because life ebbs and flows. And you might be, doing well, and then a crisis happens, a loss happens, a trauma happens, and they want to be with the person that they feel comfortable with and knows them, so that they don't have to go back and re-explain who they are, and pick up right where they need to pick up to deal with whatever the situation at hand is. And a lot of people like to, use it as their time to de-escalate and download what's going on in their life, so that they don't emotionally puke on their partner. Because that can be detrimental to their relationship. Sometimes it's a place to download the things they're feeling about their relationships, so not to inappropriately take it out on their partner. Maybe there's something their partner's doing that is triggering them, and they don't want to instinctively react to their partner, or have been, and they need some better ideas on how to stop that from happening, because they don't want to hurt their partner and they don't want to hurt themselves either. So, learning those things, sometimes it's helping my clients step away from what they're in currently to get a better perspective. I have a theory that, life happens like the waves. It's 2 steps forward, it's 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I don't want anybody to think that when they take that 1 step back, that they've gone way back to the beginning and that they've made no progress, because you feel like that when you're taking a step back. It feels like, here we go again. And oftentimes it's me having to stop my client when I'm hearing them do that, to go, let's stop for a second. Let's see where we started, and whether that be months ago or years ago, and look how far we've come. And see that those steps back oftentimes mean that we are stopping, regaining our composure, taking the whole picture into perspective, refocusing where we want our future to go.
Excuse me.
And making a plan to move our future that direction. And those step back actually can be amazingly helpful, because it gives us that moment to kind of focus on where we've been, where we want to go, and not that we're just in the momentum of just going. So not to think of, if there's a little slide back, as all for naught, I might as well give it up, why bother, because here I go again. No, it's a moment to reflect, to consolidate your gains, refocus on where you want your future to go, and then start moving in that direction again.
Got it. All right. Wow. We still have 7 minutes left in the show, Amy, and just want to remind everyone of your website one more time. Would you mind sharing it?
It's amystolbergtherapy.com, amystolbergtherapy.com.
Awesome. And clearly mental health and well-being is your top priority. And that's what you're helping people with. If you are just tuning in as a psychotherapist and then also as a life coach, could you talk about the difference in that and the different things you can help people with in life coaching?
Absolutely. When people first come and they're in crisis and it's affecting their mental health, that's the psychotherapy part of it, is finding out why they're in crisis. Is it something that's happening situational? Is it a long history? Is it something that needs to be worked on from the past? Trauma, family history, and working on how that's immediately affecting their mental health at the moment. If they are, if their mental health is deteriorating, helping them stabilize, gain skill to be able to maintain. And once they're maintaining and coping better, then the life coaching kicks in, when it's making sure that you're utilizing all those skills and all that knowledge that you've gained through the psychotherapy for your everyday life, and helping the person make life decisions whether that be, I'm stuck in my job or I'm miserable, or my relationship is falling apart, or I'm having this, this situation repeatedly happen with one of my parents or a sibling, and dealing with the situations at hand, even though their mental health is stable, but giving the place and the space to talk through and process what is going on in their daily life, and helping them make good, healthy choices, currently and for their future. So the life coaching is like, what's going on now? Where do you want it to go? Not necessarily because your mental health is deteriorating, not because you're imminently being affected by depression or anxiety or, other significant, mental health issues. Maybe the mental health part is, consulting with your doctor or psychiatrist for medication if that's necessary. And once that's stabilized and you're dealing with life itself, that's where the life coaching stuff comes in, is how do you use all the skills that you have on the daily to make your life the most successful it can be, not just surviving, but thriving.
And that's what you want us all to do. And clearly, as someone listening at home who may be struggling, saying, I can't, I don't know, the anxiety, the fear of it, what would you say to them? Any coping tools we could start doing today?
Yeah. When you spend too much time thinking about the past, you cause yourself depression. If you spend too much time thinking about the future, you cause yourself anxiety. So the trick is learning how to live in the present today, making decisions today, and trying not to bring the past stuff in, and trying not to overthink too much the future. We do have to have future plans, but to not overly stress about the future. Let's live today. Let's use the skills that we have. Let's talk about where you are today in your future plans without, winding it up so much that you can't function. Because when you're overly anxious and overly stressed is when your mental health starts to unravel and deteriorate. I say, if whatever it is that you're fearing in the future actually happens, I'll be right there with you. I'll be right there, stressing with you and problem solving. Until that happens, let's not worry about that. Let's kind of deal with what's happening right here and now, and not allow ourselves to unravel from depression of the past or anxiety about the future.
Right.
Focusing on where you are here and now, and moving yourself forward.
Got it. Well, at this time, we got to say goodbye, wrap it up, and let everyone know how they can contact you.
AmyStolbergTherapy.com, AmyStolbergTherapy.com. Thank you, Jill. I hope I brought everybody a few pearls of wisdom today. With a little grit and grace, it can be done.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I love it. Fantastic job. Thank you again for being here, for opening up, and for helping so many others open up and really live their best life. And now is the time, right?
So
Never too
now
late.
is the best time.
I
The best
agree.
of health and wellness to everybody. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Sounds good. Have a great weekend too, Amy. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.